My name is Arda Sahiner, and I'm here to present VPFO, a variable projection method for training neural networks. So in summary, we present the VPFO method, which eliminates final layer weights of a neural network by noting that when all the other weights are fixed, there's a closed form expression for those final layer weights, and we can use this to form a new objective, which can easily be integrated with standard first-order optimizers. So by eliminating those final layer weights, we reduce the number of parameters of the network, and we find that this actually speeds up training and achieves better performance, as shown in experiments on convolutional autoencoders. So some background on the variable projection method. It was designed to solve separable nonlinear least squares problems, where we modeled the relationship between input and output via a linear combination of nonlinear functions. And so when written in matrix vector form and minimizing the L2 norm of the residual over all the samples, the optimization problem is given in equation 1 here. So one key observation we make is that we can actually eliminate those linear parameters A in closed form using linear least squares solution when all the other weights theta are fixed. So now this allows us to form a new objective called the variable projection functional, as given in equation 2, which we can optimize over theta directly. So when applied to training neural networks, we note that actually the function modeled by neural networks is exactly of the same form, where those final layer weights WL are the linear parameters, whereas all the other weights in the network are these nonlinear parameters. So when we train them with squared loss, we can actually eliminate those final layer weights of the network to obtain a new objective, which we can minimize directly over all the other weights of the network. And so we can use this to optimize directly with, say, standard first order optimizers, where all we need to do is compute the gradient with respect to these nonlinear weights, which is actually quite efficient and easy to do. So one issue we find is that in order to find the exact solution for those final layer weights, we would need to do a pass over the entire training set to compute them via least squares. But in practice, this isn't done, and we use mini batches, partially because of better generalization properties and also partially because of a better memory footprint. So we can actually approximate the solution of those final layer weights using ridge regression. And at each forward pass, we find this optimal approximation, and then we use that to generate the loss and compute the gradients for the rest of the weights of the network. One other issue is in inference, where since we eliminated those final layer weights, we need to actually find them over the entire training set as sort of a post-processing step. So because this can be also difficult to do in practice, we provide two heuristics that we work quite well in practice. The first is called the PTA variant. So after training, we perform one final pass over the entire training set and just average those final layer weights over the entire training set over each batch. The other option is an exponential moving average variant, which, similar to batch normalization, which computes an exponential moving average over batch statistics, we actually compute an exponential moving average over those final layer weights that are learned throughout training. So this doesn't require a post-processing step like the PTA variant does. So some experiments of our method, we used convolutional autoencoders to attempt to reconstruct images from CIFAR10, where we use some set of downsample blocks to obtain a compressed representation and then some set of upsample blocks to actually try and recreate the original image. We train this with squared loss, and we try with a 5-layer and a 17-layer network, and we compare the results. So across all architectures, we find that actually the VPFO methods, both the PTA and the EMA variant, perform better than the baseline, which is a standard training with MST loss. We find that this is likely because of more stability early in training, where instead of randomly initialized final layer weights, those final layer weights are near optimal for the particular network. And so this allows for a higher learning rate earlier in training without divergence, which can lead to faster convergence. We also find that the EMA method early in training can move around a lot because that exponential moving average doesn't exactly capture the newest dynamics of the network. But as the network becomes closer to convergence, the EMA and the PTA method correspond. So in conclusion, we propose the VPFO method, which when neural networks are trained with squared loss, eliminates those final layer weights and actually improves the solutions found. Further extensions could involve applying this to generic loss functions, so it could be applied to more general settings such as image classification. Thank you.